Hey kids, welcome to Unit 3, Lesson 9, Reversing Arrays, exercise number 4. We have a choose your own adventure. In the last lesson, we reversed integers. This lesson, we're going to reverse strings. And no matter which one of these that you pick, the code that you're going to write is going to be almost identical. We started this lesson with national parks. That's the one I'm going to go to. Kids, I know you thought I was going to go to C in video games, but you're going to note it's missing my favorite video game. Let's see who knows me. Drop that missing game in the comments. Let's go ahead and jump into our exercise for today. In National Parks Java, we're going to write a reverse method to reverse the elements in the park names array. Then in my console Java, we're going to call the reverse method on the myparks object to reverse the array. We're going to call the printNames method in the myparks object to print the updated array. Curious about the dataset? You should always, kids, check it out over there. I am not going to break down the reversing array algorithm as in depth as I did in the last exercise. If you don't understand it, I highly encourage you to go back and watch the previous video. This one is more to demonstrate that it doesn't matter if you're working with integers or strings, the method is the same. Let's take a look at our code. Looks like we're creating our file reader. It's pointing to National Parks text document. We're creating a new array. Parks, it's getting all of that data from the National Parks text document. We're creating a new object, myparks. It's from the National Parks class. And then myparks is calling the printParksName method. We have our file reader. This looks like the standard file reader we've been using for the last couple of lessons. This is how we pull all of that text data in, convert it to an actual array. National Parks Java, we're creating one string array parks name. Our constructor is getting that array. We have our print method, which is printing off the park names. And then we're going to reverse that order. We have our national parks list. Here is our Cleveland National Park. And what we want to do is we just want to flop Zion with Acadia, and Yosemite with American Samoa, so on and so on. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And how do we write our reverse method? Well, kids, I want you to think back to that document that I showed you in the last exercise. Remember, we only have to look through half an array, because if we're swapping numbers after the midpoint, we're just swapping them back. And in order to swap values, we need to create a temporary value to store it in order to swap them. Because remember, you can either store an object or print it. If you're not doing either of those two, it doesn't exist. You just can't make x equal to y, because then y doesn't exist. And in the last lesson, I showed you how you can just copy this exact text here to write your method. I'm not going to copy and paste it as in depth as I did in the last exercise. I'm just going to talk it out on this one. Let's head back and write this code. So for swapping x and y, the first thing we have to do is create one of those variables. And if you notice, I usually make y my back, x my start. So it's a little backwards when you're writing it, but it comes out right. The back position is our last in length, so my int y is going to be equal to park names at length minus 1. And then I want my for loop, and that's going to be my start position. So we're going to go for, don't forget your curly cues. What do we want inside here? Well, our start position in x is going to be equal to 0 as long as x is less than the park names dot length. And remember, kids, we don't want to go through the whole length. We just want to go through half. So we're going to divide by 2. We just want to increase x by 1. Now, we're just going to do that xy swap. Ultimately, we're swapping names, right? So we want a string temp to be equal to the park names. And what index do we want? Do we want our x or y? We want to start with our starting position. So we'll make this X. Now we just want to swap X and Y. So we're going to do park names X equals park names Y. Now we need to finish the reverse. So now our park names, and that's going to be at our Y position, is going to be equal to temp. We're increasing here, so we need to decrease there. So we're going to do Y minus minus. Well, that's it, kids. In my other video, I put X and Y as start and end. Sometimes that's helpful to see. Since we weren't going through it step by step, it's easier to see that all we're doing is just flip-flopping X and Y spots. That's it, kids. We're not done. We have to finish this off. Let's go to my console. We have to have my parks call reverse. And then we have to print reverse. So my parks has to call the print park names method. And like the last lesson, let's give us something so we can tell the difference here, because I think we're going to get an awful lot to print off. Give us some dashes. Now when I hit run, I should get the names Z to A and then A to Z. Well, let's see if we're right, kids. And kids, I learned a helpful lesson for this. If you just highlight what you want, shift quote, it'll put it around there so you don't have to fight with the quotes and double quotes at the end. Let's hit run, see if it works now. We have our original array here. We can see our new array starts with A. I don't see any doubles, goes all the way down to Z. It looks like our code works perfect. Key takeaway from this lesson, kids, is again understanding this idea of reversing or swapping. You can't just make X equal to Y. You need a temporary variable to hold the values as you swap them. If you see here, this is the most simple form of it. And this is the X and Y's that I used in our actual lesson. You'll also notice we divided by 2. That's because if we went past 6 here in our array, we would just be putting stuff back in order. And we don't want to do that. We just want to reverse the order. And again, as I said in the last lesson, kids, chances are you're going to be asked to demonstrate this on one of the FRQs on the AP CSA exam. Reversing the order of something is a common task they ask you to do. If you remember this simple equation here, doesn't matter what they asked you, plug in the variables they give you, and you will get the answer. Hopefully, kids, this video helped you understand how to reverse string arrays. As always, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. See you later, kids. Bye, bye, bye.